This picture and this picture are pictures of my family, which is a psychic family and a non-psychic family mixed together. I wanted to talk with you today about what it's like to be living in a mixed family where some people are psychic and some are not. This is a picture of myself and my siblings, the ones that lived in the same house with me. There were other siblings that didn't live in the same house with us, but this is me and my hamster Jill, and this is my brother Eric, sister Donna, brother Stan. Now, everyone in this particular picture has some psychic ability. When we were growing up, we didn't know it was psychic ability, and when we were growing up, when we didn't understand what the other people in the house were experiencing, we would not be accepting of them and might give them a hard time because we didn't understand what was happening to them. This brother, we're all grown now, and this brother used to be able to see spirits in the apartment that he lived in. He never talked about this until he was a grown-up and seemed to be very uncomfortable with it, but he would sense spirits in the apartments that he lived in. He also had a real strong way with animals and could communicate with animals in a way that many other people cannot. This sister has the ability to, she receives information in the dream state. She also has some astrology skills, or did in the past, but she receives information in the dream state about people around her, about loved ones. This brother has totally blocked any kind of psychic information coming to him because he's so uncomfortable with that aspect of who he is. And then there's me, and I see, hear, feel, I do everything with spirits that you can, almost anything that you can imagine. Now, when we grew up with our mom, who didn't understand any of this stuff at the time. And our mom didn't know what to do with us when I would say in particular, I feel like this is happening, or I'm hearing this noise, and my mom would not hear the noise. Mom didn't know what to do about that. My suggestion to you, and I'm making this suggestion to parents and other family members of young children who are psychic, is that if your child says to you, there's a man in my room, you're going to want to question them in a way that accepts what they're saying to you and allows you to get to discern whether or not this is actually a ghost in the room, or whether they've had a bad dream, or whether something they saw on TV or in the movies has affected them, and they're playing with you, or at certain ages they imagine that there are ghosts around them, and your job as a parent is to try to find out what's happening with your child and then support them through the process around that. So when your child says to you, I feel a spirit, or I feel someone in my room, and I can't see anyone, but I know I'm being watched, somebody's watching me in my room, you're going to want to say to them, I hear you say in reflective language, I hear you say, it feels like there's someone in your room, and then wait to see what they give you for information. So you're going to be non-judgmental about what they're giving you for information. If it feels as if what's happening to them is an issue, you're going to want to consult somebody who has experience in dealing with these kinds of situations. So if your child is saying to you, I'll just give you an example. I recently had a situation in a town here in Maine. I'm going to use a fake town, Falmouth. And in Falmouth, this family in this house were having issues. The family dog didn't want to go into the upstairs bedroom that the two children shared, and the one of the parents did not want to go into that room at all because they felt so uncomfortable with the energy in that room. And one of the other parents was okay and sensed that there was something there, but felt like they needed to have more information about what was happening in that room and what was happening to the kids in that room. And toys in that room were playing. They were going off and playing by themselves. So these were musical toys. They would make noise by themselves. The children, when everyone was downstairs, the toys would go off. Another thing that would happen is the children would hear noises in the room but not see anyone there. And they called me in to come and look at the room and talk with one of the children. And I was able to confirm for the parents that there is, in fact, in that room, there is something we call a portal, in which angels and guardian spirits were coming through to talk with those children, to check in on those children. A grandfather for one side of the family and a grandmother from the other side were coming in to check in on these boys as they were going to sleep in their beds. And the children knew someone was there, but they couldn't quite tell what was happening. So children need to be supported in understanding what's happening to them. It would have been very unhelpful if one of the parents had said, "Oh, you're full of it," or "I don't believe that for a minute," or "I don't want to talk about that," or "You've been watching too many scary movies." None of those kinds of replies would have helped these young children to process what was happening for them. Now, in the psychic family that we were a part of, various members had various different skills. These are my grandparents. My grandparents lived in Portland, and my grandparents had different kinds of psychic ability, but still had that psychic ability. They never called it psychic ability, and they never understood that what was happening to them was a psychic situation. They were trying to hide it because they thought that what was happening to them was very strange and very weird. And I didn't find out until I was in my late 30s that my grandparents also had psychic abilities, and I had been hiding from them that I had psychic abilities because I thought I was weird, because that was the message I was getting from other family members, and they had been hiding their abilities from me because they thought it was weird. And so we were all doing this, we won't talk about it because it's strange. That's not really very helpful to children who have this part of them that wants to develop. It's like art. It's like music. It's like any other talent. It's there for the child to use for the child's betterment. Now, my grandparents, my grandmother would have dreams in which she would get information. She wouldn't use that language. But she once had a dream in which someone who had come to their house that evening in Portland was walking home, and she saw this person laying face down in a mud puddle next to the railroad tracks. And they heard 2 days later that this man had had a heart attack and had fallen face down in a mud puddle on the way home from their house. That frightened her. And so she was like, "Oh, I don't want to know about that. That feels really scary." And so she never talked with me about it, and I never had that guidance in that area from her. This is my granddad. My granddad would sense when something was going to happen to the safety of family members. He would get this kind of antsy feeling, and it would last for a while, and he would only talk to my grandmother about it. They never talked to me about it until I was in my late 30s. So when I experienced the same feeling as a young adult and as a person in my late teens, I had no idea that this was a normal part of psychic development in my family, and that there were other people in my family that had experienced that, and I could talk to them about that and get pointers about that. My grandfather hid it because he didn't want people to know that he had this ability. So it's important when you have children in your family who have these gifts, it's really important to talk with each other about it. It's important for parents and grandparents to accept the child for where the child is in the process. One of the things that's really important is that you don't want to force the child to move forward at a pace that's uncomfortable with them. So if the child is experiencing premonitions about things that are going to happen, you can help them to talk to a grown-up who knows about those things, but you don't want to enroll them in classes to psychically develop when they're 10 years old or 8 years old. If things are happening to them and they have questions, it's appropriate to talk to another adult about those questions and perhaps talk with other children in a class that's geared towards their age level. But it's really important not to push them into becoming psychically developed in some area that they're not ready to be psychically developed in, because they still have the emotional age of a child. That has to be considered when we're dealing with these kinds of family issues. That's my family calling now. Bye.